Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Circle of Hope Cancer Support. We're excited to be here today. As you know, we do all things wellness when we're talking with our guests at the Circle of Hope. Anything that's focused on your spiritual well-being, your physical well-being, and your mental well-being. And as a branch of the Circle of Hope, we have started Mike's Miles and Stones Ministry, which we launched on Easter Sunday. And I'm excited to bring my dear friend Shannon Richardson on board to take this another step further. Shannon and I have known each other since 1991. We go back a long ways to the town of Bakersfield. That was my first accidental sales job, was getting to work with Shannon, and we had a lot of fun. But what I didn't know is how God always works his ways and weaves the webs of the people that we're supposed to have in our life, and how this has woven for us and grown our friendship in God's light and love. And I'm just so thankful to share this with you, Shannon, because we have a fun surprise for everybody of how we're going to sprinkle the seeds of everybody thinking in their hearts of where they are in their relationship with the Lord, if they have a relationship with the Lord, if they want a relationship with the Lord, or if they question the Lord. Everybody's in different phases of their life. And so Shannon and I are going to work together with that and hopefully help shed some light on that. So Shannon, thank you for coming today. And
Thank you for having me. I feel
yeah,
humbled and blessed to even be the slightest little part of what you're doing because I love what you're doing. I love that your heart is to share the gospel of Christ and to help so many people. I love it.
well, I'm a baby in this journey, and I love that you are so far ahead of me and you've taught me so much already. Just a little background, everybody. I reached out to Shannon, it was a while ago. Shannon's been an amazing supporter of Along Comes Hope, and she and her husband have donated to us yearly a significant amount, and it's made our mission possible in many ways, and we're so grateful for that. But she's always praying over our ministry. And for those of you that don't know, Along Comes Hope helps children with cancer. So I invite you to look that up as well. I reached out to Shannon because I knew that she was always in prayer for our mission and always in prayer for myself and my family. And I asked for guidance. I was like, I had a conversation with my son and a couple of them. And I thought for sure when I asked the second time that I'd get a different answer because I didn't like my first answer. But Gabriel was questioning his spiritual beliefs. And coming from being a parent that has always instilled that in your child or your children, and then they all of a sudden question it, you definitely personalize it. You're like, where did I go wrong? But I'm like, Shannon, what do I do? Like, where do I feed him? I don't want to take him to an all-you-can-eat buffet and let him, overfeed him. Like he needs to be. I don't want to force it down him. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So you so lovingly guided me, and I'm going to let you kind of take it from there for a few minutes.
Well, I mean, I think as a parent, I know with me and my four children, when you want the best for them, obviously, and you want them to have the perfect life, they or as a Christian, you raise them in the Christian home and they follow suit and there's no problems or issues, but that's not real life. Unfortunately, I wish it
Right.
were that way and it doesn't work out that way.
And we're done.
Yeah, exactly. But it doesn't work that way. But as a parent, as a mom, it's scary when they start asking questions. But on the other side of it, as you grow in your life, and when you look at your own life, you say, well, I ask questions. It doesn't necessarily mean you don't believe. It's just they're questions that you have. And so over time, I have come to not be fearful of those questions and realizing it's good to ask questions. You should be able to make a defense for the things that you believe, right? You
Yeah.
not just take it on and say, well, I don't really know why I believe it, yet I believe it. You should be able to make a defense of your faith. And I come to know that because I found myself back on my heels in a conversation
Hmm.
with a gentleman that was asking legitimate questions. I like science and he likes science, and that was our commonality. But he was an atheist, and he was asking questions that I found myself back on my heels to answer.
I get
And
that.
I
That's
thought
where
to
I was with
myself,
Gabriel.
yeah. And so it set me on a journey to learn, well, why do I think that, or
Yeah.
maybe I need to learn a little bit more about this. And it kind of set me on a journey, but it also softened my heart for those people like our kids who ask questions. It doesn't have to be a negative thing. It's a good thing. It's negative though if you can't answer the question. It makes you feel back on your heels, right? When you
Right.
can't answer it as a mom, you're like, I don't know the answer to that. Then
But
you
yet
get scared.
also you feel humbled that they're comfortable enough to tell you or ask you these
Right.
questions. Yes.
Right. Our daughter had questions like that too, very pointed questions that I had trouble, really giving her a good answer that would
Hmm.
satisfy her, you
Yeah.
know. And like I say, it's scary because you think, well, what if they go out and what if they find something else that satisfies the questions that they have better? But
Yes,
the
the
truth of the
curiosity.
matter is either the word of God is the truth or it isn't. And I believe that it is. And so it's okay to explore all of those other things. And in fact, John Lennox is a mathematician, a scientist that I have followed for
Hmm.
years. He's a Christian and he's a theologian as well. And so he kind of combines the science part of it and the Christian part of it to help people their faith grow and to understand God better. And one of the things that he said is his dad gave him Communist Manifesto and said, "Read this,
Oh,
learn it."
interesting.
And I mean, not, and I was taken aback a little
Right.
bit by that. Like, why would you push your kid? But he said, you need to believe what you believe, and you need to understand. Also, it set him on a path to understand all sides. So he studied all religions, and he came to the conclusion that Christianity is the truth. And the book that we're talking about, C.S. Lewis's book, Mere Christianity, is a part of that same idea that I have these questions, and are there answers to the questions? And the answer is yes, there are answers to most of the questions. Obviously, you can't answer every question, but the ones that people have, the existential questions: why are we here? Is this it? Do
Yeah.
you Are we just dancing to the beat of our own DNA? What is this life? Do you just work and then you die and that's it? You go to school, you work and you die and that's it. No, that isn't it. There's
Right.
to be more. And so those kinds of existential questions are answered in the book Mere Christianity, or a lot of them are. And that's why I recommended the book, because he was an atheist. C.S. Lewis was an atheist. He was an intellectual, and he came to these conclusions of Christianity through a logical, more philosophical perspective. And so I think sometimes it gently brings people along, to let's talk about it and let me lay
Right.
it out, instead of, like you say, you don't want it to be beaten over the head, or just say you need to believe it because I said you need to believe it, or coming from sometimes a religious perspective, because nobody wants religion. They want a
Right.
relationship with Christ. And there is a difference. And I
Well, and
even had
some
to kind
people,
of come to that conclusion myself, there's a
yeah, and
difference.
some have had bad experience with religion.
Mm-hmm.
Organized religion has also segregated many people in many ways. I like how you put it in a conversation. You and I were talking country club Christians.
That's right.
I go and I do my hour at church on Sunday and then I get to leave and judge everybody.
Right. Or check the box. I went to
Yeah.
church, check. I'm good. I'm a good person now, or whatever. I met the criteria to be okay with God. And it isn't like that at all. It's a relationship with God. And coming to that understanding of that relationship is a journey. It's not, you give your life to Christ. It's not like, oh, I know everything. It's a journey. And he leads you through that at your pace, as you learn, as individualistic for you, until the day he takes you home. So you're
Right.
constantly, you never get to the point that you need to be until he takes you home. That's the
We're all
point.
learning along the way, right? That's
Yeah,
the point of the living word.
that's right.
Um, so, as a cancer coach and a founder of a nonprofit that helps children with cancer, you can see my life is surrounded by people that have cancer.
Yeah.
And in tragedy, this is what I find is that people either get closer to the Lord um, get further from the Lord or completely lose their belief system if they had one. Especially people that lose somebody in the cancer battle, especially children. When a
Mm,
parent has lost a child, oftentimes they are either their relationship with the Lord has gotten very deep, or they're like, what kind of God would do this?
mhm.
So it's been a source of not contention, but I haven't had the answers for that. And I can't say it's just because, but I love being able to have some support to help provide some guidance because I can't imagine going through crisis with feeling so alone and not having the strength of my faith and the strength of leaning on God. Like I couldn't have gone through the cancer journey I went through without that piece. Like that's the only thing I can to give you feedback is like you're in this absolute storm and tsunami, but yet you have this tranquility inside, and that's only the gift of God and the Holy Spirit. There's
Mhm.
no other way you can explain that. And everybody that I am with in their cancer journey, I want them to feel that. But yet I don't want to shove it down their throat. And that's part of what we're wanting to do here by creating this little book club and our book club of two and inviting everybody to join us. And when you suggested Mere Christianity, I feel like this is a great way to do baby steps for, especially because C.S. Lewis was an atheist,
Right.
and his journey was he convinced himself by trying to prove there wasn't a God that there is.
That's right.
And I'm not telling anybody that's here listening that they're right, wrong, or indifferent. But my goal and my promise to my friend Mike, which is why it's Mike's Milestones and Ministry, is that we're going to help him plant the seeds for more people to know and love the Lord. And that's the journey of this whole mission. I do want to invite people right now also. This is the book, Mere Christianity, C.S. Lewis. I'll put the link when I post this. It'll be in the body of the YouTube link, so you can go on and order it on Amazon or get it at a bookstore, because then you'll have your book for us to do our next gathering, and we'll do the first chapter, which really the chapters are called books. And then there's sub books within it. Let me show you. I don't know if you can see that. So this is the first real chapter, but then there's 5 chapters within the chapter. So I asked you about that, and I'd love for you to share that example of why it's written that way, because I was confused.
I know. I actually don't know the reason why he calls it books, but this book was a speech originally that he gave and that he wanted to put into a book form. And so he separated out the topics, I think, by books. And I'm not really sure why he did it that way, but it was a speech. It wasn't intended initially to be a book. So I know that. But
Okay. Also, it's available on Audible. So for people that want to just do their chores around the house, fold laundry, do the lawn, go for a ride, whatever, you can listen to it on Audible.
I
Um,
have it on Audible and I've read the book, the actual book, and I've also listened to it on Audible. So it's good.
what do you think about the two, the difference?
I love Audible. I use it a lot, especially on road trips. The narrator makes all the difference in the world. If you have a good narrator, it's great. If you don't, it's not.
It's
In this
painful.
particular case, it's a good narrator. I think it's good. I think it gives you it evokes the spirit of C.S. Lewis, I think, So I would recommend it for sure. If you
Okay.
like Audible, if you like listening, some people don't like to sit down with the book or they nod off, or
Right.
whatever. So it's a
Or have to
better,
reread and
yeah.
reread and reread like I do.
I guilty as
Yeah. What did I just read?
yeah.
Um, I know you have come across several people in your life that also have not been believers for one reason or another. I would love to have your insight on people that are going through tragedy that are pushed away and say, what kind of God would do that?
Right.
What's your feedback for that?
It's interesting because the people that like you say, will blame God, even though they don't have a relationship with God, or many times they don't even believe in God, yet they'll say, how would it, you know,
Yeah.
so cruel for God to do that. What kind of God would do that? Give a child cancer or allow a child to die from cancer or whatever. And I don't have all the answers for that, but I do know this. In a world of atheism, there is no justice. People just die. There's no justice in the world. The people that do bad things get away with it. The people that, hurt other people get away with it. There's no justice. But in Christianity, there is justice. God says, I'm a just God, and perfect justice will be handed out to all people. Everybody will stand before God and make an account for their life. And then will reap the benefits or will reap the destruction of those choices in their life. And so nobody gets away with it. As far as like children dying, we live in a fallen world. This isn't the world that God planned to be. We rebelled, that humanity rebelled against God, and God, now we're in a state of entropy. This world is falling apart. It's dying. It's not how God planned it to be. But I also think that God, in this situation, he also reaches out with mercy and grace. And
Yes.
sometimes in our carnal minds, we think how a child, it's terrible to think of a child dying from cancer or any child dying from anything, any disease or accident or whatever.
Yeah.
But sometimes I wonder, I think, and you kind of have to think existentially, you can't be mired by the constraints of this life. If you want to try to really understand spiritual things.
That's so
And I
true.
think maybe God took those children home because they were going to lead a life that led them away from him and would be separated for all eternity. I don't know. That's just um speculation on my part, but I know he's a gracious, loving, caring, merciful God. And he loves those children more than we do. They're his creation. And I know that he wants to have a relationship with them. He wants salvation for their life. And so I believe in my heart that however it happens, it's a merciful, God has mercy on their souls and they will be with God for all eternity. And maybe that is a more merciful thing than if they were to grow and live a wonderful life on this planet, but then die separated from him. I
Right.
don't know that, but I think sometimes maybe that's the most merciful thing that he could have done. And we can't understand that. And I can't even imagine a parent that's lost a child. I'm not trying to diminish that in any way, shape, or form. Um, but I trust that his mercy and grace extends to every person born, every
Absolutely.
person. So
Yes.
um
What do you
I
think
don't
it
know.
is about tragedy or big life challenges that forces people, not forces, because it's all by choice, that we're either drawn to God's light deeper or that we are pushed away and responding in anger or
Yeah,
rejection?
I think people that are going through things like that are deeply hurt. And sometimes when we're hurt, our heart is hurting, we reject even people around us that love us, or whatever, just that pain comes out in a negative way. Um, I do think that people have set their heart against God. They want to do things the way they want to do it, but then when it doesn't work out, they're looking for somebody to blame, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know what their thoughts are, what their process is in their life, but I do know that when you turn from God and you turn, his word says, if you continue to turn away from him, your heart becomes harder and impervious to his love and mercy and grace in your life. And at some point, if you continue down that path, he hands you over to a reprobate mind. And that just means he lets you take the reins of your own life.
And
And
that's scary.
that's
You
scary.
know, it
It
is.
is scary. And so yeah, I don't know. It's sad. It's hard when you're trying to reach somebody and you see it, but they don't see it,
Right.
and you want so badly for them. But like I shared with you earlier, God has really spoken to my heart about prayer. I am a can-do person. So I think, oh, if I just say the right thing, or if I just present them with the right thing, then they'll come around. But then you do say the things that you think are the right thing, or you do present them with the books or the quotes or the information. And surely if I just give them enough truth,
Right.
they'll come to an understanding and give their life to Christ. But then they don't. And you think, I've done everything in my power. And that is when you come to the end of yourself and God says, pray. And I don't know what it is in you, but that you think, well, pray, like that's the old adage is like, if everything else fails, pray.
Right, pray.
And we should be praying first. And so God has really touched my heart about that because I've prayed and prayed and prayed for things in my life that I didn't see any change for years. And then I did. And it renewed in me. He showed me that this prayer, that he's listening, and that it's not just my plan and purpose, it's my way, that it's a relationship with him, that he has created us in his image, and in that image and his love for us, he also incorporates us in his plan and purpose for humanity in through prayer. So he reaches us, he uses us, he can do it in any way he wants, but he chooses to use his creation to reach the other people, and
Absolutely.
to and he does it through prayer. So he says, come to me. It's a command. Come to me. I want you to pray for these people. And then in turn, I'm going to speak to you and you can speak to these people. It's a corporate thing that he has used his humanity. So it's not separate. It's not just he's up here doing his own thing and we're just these pawns down here that have
Right.
no part in it. We do have a part in it. He says we have a part in it. So it's a relational thing. And I love that. And I've just come, it's like one of those light bulb moments, it's like, oh, prayer is super important and it works.
You made a great point because there's times you get lethargic where you go, nothing's happening. The needle's not moving.
Yeah.
I'm getting tired of praying for this, and maybe that's not his will, or does prayer really work? So
Right.
you
Are
make a
you
very good
listening,
point.
Lord?
Right. Are you
There.
listening to what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's times that we give up. I mean, I know there's times that I've stopped praying for certain things, and you make a great reminder to stay diligent with that. And
Right.
you had a message about speaking people's names.
I did. I was praying, and oftentimes I would pray for my family or my friends, kind of corporately,
Mhm.
and I felt, not audibly, but I felt the Lord speak to me so clearly to call them out by name. Every person by name, pray for them by their name, make it personal. And so I do that. And I started thinking about it, and it hit me again. It's like he is a personal God. He wants
Yes.
he wants to have a relationship with that person. He wants to make it personal, and it is personal to him. And so he's teaching me that it's personal.
Right.
So to be specific about your prayers and call the people out by name when you're praying for them, whether it be for healing or salvation or whatever. And the flip side of that is true as well, because Satan went to God and said that he called out the disciples by name, saying that he wanted to attack him, so by name.
Mm.
So I think that it's personal. It's
Yeah.
personal on Satan's side, it's personal on God's side. It's personal.
And we were
And
named for a reason, right?
it's important, right? It's
Yeah.
important that we remember each person by name. So in our prayers.
So if I were sitting here as a listener and I was on the fence or maybe had no spiritual belief, agnostic, atheist, either one, what would you advise me right now?
I would say be open to hearing the truth. Don't be closed off. I mean, I think if you hear the word of God, if you hear truth, if you can just listen to C.S. Lewis, when he wrote the book Mere Christianity, was equipping people to have a logical conversation with people about God, incorporating the questions that many atheists have. And so that's the reason I offered that as a tool to use to reach somebody, just to get them to think about what it is they
Right.
believe. But the same token, I was finding myself back on my heels about being able to make a defense for what I believed. It set me on a path to understand. But if the atheists would do the same thing, I mean, I guess my plea to them would be, your eternal salvation depends on it. So
Yes.
don't you think it's worth looking into? And and not just saying I don't believe it, even though you've not even checked into it, you didn't even bother to check into it, to look at the details, to look at the fine print, as they say, like really research it. Wouldn't isn't it important enough for you to at least give it that much time? And then if you want to reject it, reject it. But I think sometimes people are afraid that they're going to believe, and they don't want to believe because they don't want to turn loose of the reins of their life. They think they have preconceived ideas of what being a Christian means. Maybe that's the
Right.
case. I'm not going to have any fun anymore. My life's going to be in the doldrums. I'm going to be this dull person. The lies that Satan whispers to us, right? That,
Right. I cuss and drink and smoke too much to be a Christian.
yeah, right. Like, and they have these
We don't,
preconceived
they don't
ideas.
have to be
Yeah,
perfect.
right.
Exactly.
Exactly. None of
There's
us are.
That's right. That's right. That there's that saying that you'll never meet an atheist in a foxhole.
Yeah, that's true.
So you always wonder what makes somebody all of a sudden go, I think there's no risk in believing right now, but believing and believing are two different things.
Right.
I think this is a good transition for us to close off until we meet again to cover our first chapter, aka first book of Mere
Yep.
Christianity. Is there anything else you want to add to it for a little homework before? Or
I think just, you can listen to it kind of passively, but it's deep. It's a profound book,
hmm
but it's easy. It's anybody can glean what C.S. Lewis is trying to say. It's not above any, it's not too intellectual or anything like that, but it does require that you pay attention and that you're really listening and give it some thought, what he's
yeah.
saying.
I like the analogies he uses it because it makes it relatable too, wherever you
Exactly.
are on your belief system.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, well, awesome. So, everybody, please order your book or go to Audible and get Mere Christianity. If you just want to do the Cliff Notes, Shannon and I are your Cliff Notes girls.
True.
Wait, I guess you have to be a certain age to know what Cliff Notes are now, right?
That's true. That's
We're
true.
your Chat GPT girls.
Yeah, exactly. These cliff notes when you have Chat GPT.
That's right. Well, it could probably read the book for us or give us a Reader's Digest. Who knows?
I know.
So we will see you guys again and we'll break down the first chapter. And in the meantime, have a most blessed Memorial Day weekend. I think it is very poignant that we are kicking this off, our Mere Christianity book club, on Memorial Day. Especially because I just said you will never meet an atheist in a foxhole. And these men and women have sacrificed their life for our freedoms.
Yes.
And God does bless America. And we're going to talk about division and differences and so many things. So please join us in our next podcast, our Fireside Chats with Shannon Richardson and Jenny Mulks at the Circle of Hope Cancer Support. Have a blessed day. Bye, everybody. Shannon, thank you.